Hey everybody, welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. It is always a great day when Kara Swisher comes into the back room. We will talk with Kara in just a second, but first, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you listening, and we'd love to hear your comments. So email us at backroomandy@gmail.com and/or post on our social media, and we'll read some feedback next time. And if you like the podcast, please follow or subscribe and rate and review, and you'll be notified every time we post a new episode. So, Kara Swisher, she is the host of the podcast On with Kara Swisher and the co-host of the Pivot podcast with Scott Galloway. Both are distributed by New York Magazine. She's also a regular panelist on CNN's The Chris Wallace Show, and she was the co-founder and editor-at-large of Recode and host of the Recode Decode podcast and co-executive producer of the Code Conference. She was a former contributing opinion writer for the New York Times and host of its Sway podcast, and has also worked for the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post. Burn Book is her third book, and it is out tomorrow, Tuesday, February 27th. Kara, welcome back into the back room.
Thank you. I love the back room.
Back room is where everything happens.
It is. It is. Good and bad, from what I understand. I never get in back rooms.
We won't tell you about the bad stuff, though.
Oh, all right. Okay.
And there's some really bad stuff that goes on in here.
I'm assuming.
So you have a busy couple of weeks coming up. Burn Book
I do.
Is coming out tomorrow, Tuesday, February 27th. It's released. Very exciting.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I love this book. It's
you.
juicy. It's insightful, very personally revealing. And I guess the best testimonial I could give for it is that I banged through it in a day, which for
That was the goal.
Which for me is like building a house in a day because I am the slowest reader. So kudos on that.
Thank you. I don't want to make it easy to read. I know I'm not dumb to read, but fast. And one of the things that if you can come away and read this book and be like, oh, interesting history of the early internet to today and some warnings, right? But I wanted to make it so that I didn't get bogged down in technical and too much. I know it sounds detailed. Sometimes when you tech writers write books, you're like, do I really need to know exactly every step it took to make that code? They're not storytellers. And so I was going for a story versus let me make one observation. When I wrote my first book, I was very young. It was on AOL, and I got very frustrated. And at one point, I was literally on the floor rolling around because there was too much information, right? I didn't know how to put it together or shape it. And I called a friend of mine, and I was really just not experienced. And they happened to write true crime books, right? They were a crime reporter for one of the newspapers and were really good at those. And I said, what am I going to do? You've written books. What am I going to do? And they said, Kara, it's not the entire story of AOL. It's your story. And I was like, oh, okay. And it stuck with me my whole life all of journalism. This is my story, not the whole story.
That's right. And it's that comes through in the book because the book is not just about tech. It's not just about the tech bros, although that stuff is great. It's also about you. And who you are and where you came from. And you talk about your strengths, your weaknesses. You're self-deprecating. You say that you're not somebody who apologizes a lot. You refer to the obnoxiousness, persnicketyness, a distaste for lies, which you say is a proclivity to call out. You have a proclivity to call out nonsense no matter the power of the person uttering it. In fact, especially if the person is very powerful. But I want to ask you, do you think being a great interviewer, in order to get to the heart of your subjects and what makes them tick, how important do you think it is to be incredibly aware of who you are as the interviewer?
I think it's very important. I think you have to, one of the things that I've noticed of successful people, and I've studied them over the years, I think I'm very successful, is that they tend to be the genuine selves, if that makes sense, right? They're who they are, and it's really, it's the hardest thing to do, right? To be who you are, because you tend to edit yourself for everybody in life, whether it's a partner, whether it's for work, or you don't say what you really think, right? And I think people who do that are just simply not as successful. I think and I don't mean saying everything that's on your fucking mind, right? Because that's unfortunately a disease too. Some things, keep it to yourself, pal. And I think, there's a lot of people we could say that about these days. And there's it's sort of gone the opposite way. But I do think people have to be doing what's their genuine self, and also have to be expressing themselves as their genuine self, without fear or favor, right? That this is what I think. I think what you have to guard against is being needlessly cruel or or doing it because of your ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doing it because you need to be heard over people.
Mm-hmm.
I think you say your piece and you get out, kind of thing, is how I look at it. And I don't think anybody is served by. One of the things I always say when I do interviews is I don't care if I ever talk to them again. And it doesn't mean I don't want to talk to them again. It means I don't conduct an interview for my next one. And I think I would say not every journalist, but too many do that.
Well, in the book, you talk about that. You say that your success as an interviewer hinges on 3 goals, one of which is to make it a conversation, and then also to not be afraid to ask the questions that everyone is thinking, and perhaps others are afraid to ask. But to your point, to conduct each discussion as if you're never going to interview that person again, which I guess gives you a sense of power and, liberty in a way that you're going to ask the things that have to be asked and not be like, perhaps CNN or MSNBC who needs them back in 2 days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I watch a lot of interviews. I was watching, one that got criticism recently. Kristen Welker didn't ask, and she said it was a mistake. Where Elise Stefanik, who's really a piece of work, and fascinating in her relentless, aggressive need to suck up to people, and her ambition is really quite something else. Where she said January 6th people were hostages and she didn't say a word. I just couldn't. When I saw it, I was like,
right.
What? Like in that instance, I literally would have gone, excuse me, what did you just say? I wouldn't have let her move on until that was answered. Well, I think they're hostages. Well, they're not. They're in courts. Like, what are you talking about? Like, to let that fly, I can't do it. I always have a what in my head. Like, huh? And that's because you have to be listening to what the people are saying and then understand what their goal is in the interview, everyone has a goal in those interviews, right? To get through. And all she wanted to do was get through the word hostages, right? That's and without it being challenged. And to me, that was heinous on her part.
Well, to your point, Welker clearly was not thinking this could be my last interview with her. I don't know.
Maybe she missed it. I don't know. But if you cannot, and especially in these high stakes interviews like that, you cannot let things fly.
Right.
You have to at least put a like, what? I say what a lot. Like, excuse me? And I think it unnerves people. I think it's actually, and I actually mean it. I'm like, I'm sorry. It's kind of a version of, what did you just say? Sorry, I don't, that's wrong. Like, and I don't think one of the problems with interviews now is instead of doing that, people are fact checking. I don't think that works as well either. Right. And then it's a, he said, she said kind of thing. I think when you go into these interviews, you have to have an absolute sense of, here are the facts. And I often have a paper like, no, actually here.
Right.
And unfortunately today, people, even if you say, look here, someone like Donald Trump will say, yeah, no, that's not true. It doesn't matter. You're talking to a refusal to acknowledge actual facts. And then you're in a whole different territory.
Well, you cite in the book that you've been referred to as Silicon Valley's most feared and well-liked journalists. And,
no, I didn't cite that. It was a headline I didn't like, but go ahead. Go ahead.
But regardless, that's not an easy thing to pull off, is it? To be feared
I also don't
and
think
liked.
It's true. I don't think it's true. I when I did it, I saw why they did it, for selling the story. I love headline writers, and it was a good one. I don't think people are actually scared of me. I think idiots are scared of me. I think smart people have no.
You don't
fear
think?
of me.
I mean,
like,
you're a tough interviewer. Why wouldn't they be scared of you?
Yeah, but what am I going to do to them? Just talk to them? Like I'm going to
ask them for an honest answer. That terrifies these people.
Is that scary? Why?
Them?
Why? Why are they gonna die from it? Like, I don't know. Like, fear is a real thing. Like, someone the other day said, "What are you scared of?" I'm like, scary things. Otherwise, nothing. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I guess watching True Detective with my eyes open. Why are you going in that room? Why are you doing that? I think I don't think I'm scary. I just don't. I'm sorry. If you think I'm scary, you should meet some scary people. The second part is I don't think I'm not well liked or disliked. I don't think it matters. Okay, I'm not your friend. Like, what do you care? I don't care if you like me. I care if my children like me. But so I guess, what I think that's saying is people are surprised that I'm quite friendly and polite to people, right? I'm not snarky. I'm certainly.
Well, I think what it says to me when I see something like that is that you're just a professional, because that's your job.
Correct.
Your job is to. I mean, I guess I would agree that it's like a pejorative use of those words. Like, fear is probably not the right word. It's just people need to be on their
Well, it's
toes
used
when they talk to you.
it's used a little bit, and I don't tend to do this that much on women. Like, oh, she's likable. Like, what does that mean?
Right.
Like, remember the Hillary Clinton? She's likable enough. Wow, that was something coming out of Barack Obama's mouth.
Not one of his best moments.
Let me just tell you, nobody's given him a hard enough time for that bullshit.
Yeah.
But likable. She's likable. Like, oh, thank you. I don't really care if you like me or not. Or she's fear. Fear is you don't use that. Can you imagine saying that about a man? You just don't. And I never do that. I don't like when people, can you imagine saying about a man? But in that regard, those are very interesting words to use.
Well, also when women are strong, they're shrill.
That's right.
So
that's
there's
shrill.
the other end of
that. Well, that's on the back of my book. That's in one of the blurbs of my book. Instead of blurbs, I have actual phrases people said about me. And Elon said, her voice is so shrill, only dogs can hear her, and him, apparently. So shrill is a perfect word.
I think these days the dogs have turned him off. They're not even listening to him anymore.
No, nobody's listening.
So your
are,
dad died at 5, and you write in the book, quote, "Imagine if half your friends died." What does that mean?
It's actually, there's a great book by Irving Yalom called The Loss That Is Forever.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend it to people whose parents have died at an early age. But you become highly functional. But one of the things that he noted that I hadn't really thought of, it's so obvious, was that when you're a kid, before you go to school and develop other friendships, your significant friendships, until at least 6 or 7, really, are your parents. That's it, right? Mm-hmm. And there's relatives, or your grandmother, or stuff like that. But really, your significant relationships are your 2 parents. And so if one disappears, it's like half your friend. I was trying to make a comparison. Can you imagine if half your friends just died? Like, what would that be like?
Yeah, it's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, I thought that's an amazing book, and I give him full credit for that. I hadn't thought of that until then.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you about the book cover, the sunglasses with the fire, very Schwarzenegger. Was that what you were going for?
I thought it'd be fun.
Terminator, was that what you were going for?
Yeah, yes, something like that. I love Terminator. It's one of my favorite movies.
So there's a part in the book where you talk about when you parted ways with Murdoch and News Corp and how you handled their specious behavior. That's, for me, when the photo on the cover started to make sense, because in that moment with Murdoch, you were a total badass. And that photo, it's like, don't fuck with me.
Yeah. He's a piece of work. What a piece of work he is. I shall not go on. I do call him Uncle Satan. I think that kind of eclipses how I feel about him in general. So, in particular.
The book starts off talking about the tech summit.
Can I just say that about Uncle Satan? The reason I do it is because he's quite avuncular in person. He's quite charming, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's very
all those guys are? Like, isn't that
not all of them? No. He's really quite charming, except every now and then something racist pops out. Like I was at an event with him once, a private event. I won't say what he said, but it was about immigrants, and I was he said something really, like, the whole room was like, oh my God, did he just say that? It was interesting. And I was like, what did you just say? And everyone was like, shut up, Kara. Like, let Uncle Satan keep going. But I use that because he's very avuncular. I use that particular word, uncle, because he seems harmless when you meet him, but he's not, obviously.
So you opened the book with the tech summit, the Trump tech summit, where all the titans of technology went to Trump Tower and kissed the ring. And because this was, I guess, in 2015 or 16. And you write that the lack of humanity was overwhelming, that you minored in college in Holocaust studies. Quote, I studied propaganda, and I could see Trump was an expert at it. I knew exactly where this was headed.
Yep.
So many people did know where it was headed, yet we headed there anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Why did these titans, these tech bros, what was the appeal to them in him?
In Trump? Well,
and still,
I don't know if all of them like Trump. I don't know if they like Trump. They like destruction. They like people who throw things up. They like people who are contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. And they don't recognize this guy is not that. He really is quite a very different little creature, right? He's not. I think they love to upset apple carts. I think they like to be victims. I think they share that with him. He's a persistent. Only rich people are this much of a victim, right? I've been witch hunt, whatever nonsense comes out of his mouth every day. At the heart of it is victimization, feeling that he's a victim. And I call it the grievance industrial complex because they all have this disease. They have this amazing disease where they have to say what's been done, how hard the journey is, largely because they're all drama queens on some level, right? I use
Isn't
that
it
term
amazing?
loosely.
People who have just about everything you could possibly have in life still
honestly.
think they're victims.
Oh God, Bill Ackman, just go with your beautiful wife and your wonderful life and stop. Like
He just keeps trying to
honestly,
find new ways to throw away money.
I'm like, look at Jeff Bezos. He's having a good time with his wife. Just go buy yourself a yacht, sir, or something. I really care about Harvard. It's like, and also, who the fuck cares about Harvard? Like, I just got another bunch of notes about Harvard. Like, let's stop talking about fucking Harvard. Like, you're all like, really, we have some real problems in this country, and what's going on at Harvard is like number 60,012.
Ask the average
list.
person on the street, what do you care about most in this country?
Like,
and Harvard is the first thing that comes right up.
Harvard. Liberal professors at Harvard. That's really our biggest problem in this country. Oh God.
So
Bill,
Washington, you worked at I think your first gig, or one of your first gigs, was at the Washington Post, and the editor once told you after you applied for an internship that you were, quote, too confident, and your response was, quote, I'm not too confident.
I'm not.
I'm fantastic,
I'm not.
Or I will be.
I am. I was. I will be.
Self-awareness is very important, Kara.
It's very important. I know what I'm good at. I argued this with someone the other day because in an interview they called it uncommon confidence, which again is what does that mean? Why are those two words together? Why can't you just be confident, right? Why is it uncommon? Is we should all be insecure?
No,
is that the goal?
For a woman.
Well, for a woman, you're not supposed to say how great you are, right? Exactly. It's untoward. It's not pretty, but it's fine. Whatever. I'm not looking for a man. So in that, it was really interesting. And I was young, and I was like, I'm not saying I'm good at basketball, my friend.
Right.
Like my son, as my son always points out, you suck, and I do. I don't say I'm good at things I'm not good at, but I was good at journalism. I was. It was like I wanted to listen, Andy. I wanted to be an architect, and I was terrible at it. Everything I designed was ugly. And so I looked at myself and I said, I'm not good at that. And I did not brag that I was good at it or anything else. I was just moved along because I knew I couldn't be the best. I was good at it and said so. And so one of the things that I think is important to do is assess yourself correctly, right? I'm good at that. I'm not good at that. I need to improve that. And if you're good at it, say it. What's wrong with it? Like, why is it untoward to say it? And I think, look, men do it all the time, right? In loud and quiet ways, but they walk through the world like they are good. That's the beginning point. Is I'm good. And having raised 3 sons now, one is just 2, but you can see it, the confidence with which my sons walk through the world, and it was inbuilt because of the way the world reacts to them, right? These are very tall, good-looking white men who are smart. Like they get to be happy right away. Not all of them are, by the way. There's a real mental health crisis among young men going on right now. I think Scott Galloway is correct on this. But they start from a much better position than other people do, and they never recognize that. Many of them never recognize they're born on third base and they hit a home run, right? That's how, that's the kind of thing I always notice. And so I don't want to guilt my sons into it, but I want them to be aware of where they're starting on the mountain, like whether what they're doing is a real achievement. And that's all. And it's not like, look where you are. Okay, now you know where you are compared to much of the world. And I don't want you to feel that your problems aren't important. I just want you to recognize where you're starting from. And so I had the same thing. I'm like, okay, I'm good at this. And it seemed to drive a lot of people crazy, largely men, I have to say, but some women. Like, don't be so confident. I remember when I was a kid, don't be so confident. I was like, why?
Why not?
Like why
confidence
shouldn't
fuels everything.
That's correct. And then I would say, why shouldn't I be? And they kind of try to beat it out of you. Like I had so many of those encounters. Or bossy, that's the other word. Bossy, you're bossy. I was like, oh my God.
Men just
love executive
bossy
function.
Women.
Bossy, yeah, bossy. It's like, I was, and like I'll tell you what helped me being a lesbian. They let lesbians. Oh,
men love bossy
confident.
Lesbians too. The
they
most.
love a bossy
the
lesbian.
Most. Can't get enough.
They actually do. I hate to say it, but they're like, oh, like I can like this woman. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, yay, I get her. But at the same time, which was something that's interesting, I was telling someone this the other day. They're like, do you think being a lesbian helped you get along with like tech bros or dudes or whatever, in tech? 'Cause there's a lot of dudes, right? And I said, something, I think it did. I think people feel like they want to get along with a woman. Here's a woman who's like them, likes the ladies, that kind of thing. For some reason, it's so ridiculous. And I was at an event, and a very good-looking woman went by, and all these guys were like, "Kara, what do you think of her?" Like they started talking about it, right? Like as men do, but I assume among and between themselves. I don't encounter
I wouldn't
this
know
a
any
lot.
of that.
I wouldn't know any of that. And they're like, "Kara, what do you think?" And I was like, I looked at them. I go, "Still a feminist. Sorry, I don't talk about women like
That's a
that.
great
I don't
answer.
discuss boobs." And they're like, "Oh yeah, right, okay, got it."
I'm
I
a
was like,
lesbian,
"Got
not a
it,
pig,
okay."
okay?
I know, exactly. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
this is a great segue into your P2P, which is the prick to
Yeah.
productivity ratio.
Yeah.
Explain.
You like that?
Yeah, I
You
love
like
it.
that?
I
Yeah,
love
it's a
that.
scientific thing. I'm going to patent it and sell it on cable late at night.
It's a great way to assess these people. It's
Yeah,
simple.
it is.
It's very simple.
I was really I just was like, how do I look at people? And I do think productivity is important, right? What did they make that was substantive this is my estimation. Everyone can have their own estimations.
Mm-hmm.
Did they make things that were really significant, and how much pricktiousness did it take to get there, right? And there's often a level of, as you know, not just in tech, but in finance, of any Hollywood, is the prick too far? Is the prick too much? And is it a toxic prick, or is it just someone who yells at people? You know what I mean? Which is toxic, but come on, like it happens. And so it was really a good way to just assess. And I'd go, okay, Steve Jobs, he yells at people, he parks in handicap things. Sometimes he can be disingenuous, okay, but look at this. What did he make? And so I would just do that. And if someone crossed the prick ratio and it was cruel and nasty, that's where they lost it for me. They went off the chart, essentially. It doesn't count. But in some cases, I'm like, all right, okay, they also did this, they did this, they did this. And so I would just be like, how much can I tolerate right here in this thing? And I just thought it was funny. I would do it all the time,
You gave Jobs 8/10.
Yeah.
And you gave Bill Gates 7.
I move it up, actually, now, compared to the people now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Elon's thrown off the entire grade curve.
Yeah, you said he's like, quote, he utterly
Infinity.
broke my ratio to 11, 12, infinity and beyond.
Infinity,
that's pretty high.
Beyond, yeah. Well, he's a real prick, so I don't know what to tell
you should like do an annual award.
Yes, the prick is
the
prick.
PTP awards, and he just give him like lifetime achievement. He would get the lifetime achievement right up
yeah.
front.
Right. He'd probably show up, wouldn't he? He would show up.
He would, and he would think it's a compliment to get that award.
He does. He said that was a compliment. He said in last tweet he did about me, he said my heart was seething with hate. I was like, what? Oh my God, you egomaniac! How ridiculous! Like, it was so funny. But he saw it as a compliment, my hate.
Yeah, you said about tech billionaires. When people get really rich, they seem to attract legions of enablers who lick them up and down all day. Many of these billionaires had then started to think of this fawning as reality, where suddenly everything that comes out of their mouths is golden. It seems like they're all guilty of that, right? Like that's what they're suffering from.
Not all of them. No, not all of them.
No, you have a chapter called Mensches. So you mentioned a couple of people like Mark Cuban and Mark Benioff, but it seems like there's a lot more in the P2P crowd than the high P2P crowd than there are in the Mensches category.
Maybe you have this experience. Wealth really warps people. They do, and this is not wealth. I mean, you have experience in entertainment media. This wealth is astonishing. This is beyond rich guy in Hollywood kind of money, right? This is obscene amounts.
Don't
of
count
money.
my billions, Kara.
You know what I mean? But
yeah, I do.
When you get into these levels, it's crazy. It's crazy how rich they are and what they can do and the power that it brings with it. And so, and it also attracts a certain type of person that sucks, licks them. I say sucks. That's also what they do, but they lick them up and down all day. And they imagine that being the way it is.
Right.
And I think I used an example. I did the podcast for Succession, which I really liked. And one of the things, and I asked Jesse, who created the show, about this, because I was really struck by the design of the rooms these people were in, and how they went over the course of the 4 seasons, or 4 or 5 seasons, whatever it was. it got progressively smaller and smaller, these little environments, and more antiseptic, more insular, and everything else. And the last scene of the show, you got to watch it because it's really interesting. Tom and Shiv get in the car. They go from the room upstairs, the boardroom, to the car, but they're all enclosed, right? They're in their comfortable, beautiful leather cashmere things. Or you're by yourself, like whatchamacallit is the son, I'm the eldest boy. He's by himself. Everyone else is enclosed, or the only other person is the other son, who is in a bar with people. Like, these people don't encounter people.
Right.
Roman, they don't encounter people anymore. And so they only encounter people that want something from them or are paid by them. Either they want a deal if you're an investment banker, and they're never going to tell them the truth because their interests don't line. The truth is not helpful to their interests. And so that's what I was talking about, this enclosed wealth that it's impossible to get the truth from anybody. It seems like
even if you especially like in the case of Musk, it kind of makes him crazy. Like, some seem to handle it much better.
It didn't used to. He loved that. He liked when you had disputatiousness with him. He liked it. And then he didn't, because something snapped. He didn't want to hear it anymore because he didn't have to hear it anymore. And that's okay. It's just, I don't think it's I don't think people should always tell people what they think of them. And what I do think is they should be able to tell you what you think of them, and then you can agree or disagree, right? But you certainly don't want to, I have lots of people. I just recently had someone who's like, I don't think this is not what I thought. And I was like, well, that's what I said. And if you didn't hear me, I don't know what to tell you. But I wasn't not listening. I just didn't agree. That's different.
Right.
I think what it is all they want is people telling them how smart and, oh, you're so huge, like in some version. And how can that be? How can that be? You're a person. And so I think it's really hard for people to, when you get to that level, to resist it. It's irresistible.
Well, you write in the book that you believe it's just a question of time before Musk enters the Howard Hughes phase of his life. So in essence, you're really saying it's not going to end well for Elon, is it?
Well, he himself has spoken of some mental health challenges years ago. He'll deny it now, but you can go look at the interviews. I think he's personally, if I were him, I would seek therapy, but he doesn't want to. So that's fine. It's just, I think it seems to be out of control a little bit, right? You can just see it. But the thing is, you can actually watch it in real time, right? You're seeing his id on display almost every second.
And it's not getting any better.
And at first, by the way, he was a big prankster and sometimes said things just to cause kind of a problem. And I get that. It's funny. It's sort of 12-year-old humor. Now it's something else. It's manic now. I find it manic. And I don't even read him anymore. I don't even read it anymore. I'm like, oh, what did he... It's like Trump. It's like, what crazy shit did he pull? And you become inured to it. You do.
You're desensitized to it.
Yeah, that's what benefits Trump, by the way. Like, he says crazy stuff all day long, but he's been saying it for 20 years.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you write in the book that Scott has said about 15,000 penis jokes to you, and you found
at least
2 funny. Okay, so to sort of keep in that vein, what I'd like to do, if you're up for it, is play.
You're going to tell me penis jokes?
No,
like I don't have
I want to play
Fuck,
Fuck, Marry, Kill with you.
Okay.
And here are the candidates.
Fuck, marry, kill.
Fuck, marry, kill. We're just going to pretend we're going to ignore the lesbian thing for just a second. The candidates are Musk, Zuck, and Travis Kalanick. I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to let you do it.
Oh my God, kill all of them. No, marry Mark Zuckerberg. Marry Mark Zuckerberg, because I think he's a good husband. Oh,
good provider.
God, I can't even answer those other two.
Come on. Of course you can.
I would. I'm just cringing at the idea of having sex with either of them. I guess Travis.
I thought you were going to say, like, all right, Musk is kind of like...
No. Oh, no. I don't even know. Who knows what's going on there? No.
All right. Well,
sorry.
we'll leave it...
I don't... No.
We'll leave that up for the
He's a very tall guy. He's a super tall guy. He's a big guy. He's big. He's just going to be like, no. No. Good God. I wouldn't want to kill him either, by the way.
Kara, this has been fun, like always.
How about fuck, marry, vaguely injure? Injure lightly injure.
That's a new.
Like that.
That's definitely a new twist on the game.
Vaguely injure, like slight slap, and some of them might like it. They might like it. You know,
There's
you've
so
watched
many. There's so
Billions,
many
they like
jokes.
it.
There's so many jokes. There's so,
I know.
and so little
now
time.
you've turned me into Scott Galloway. How dare you?
I could say we throw a strap on in there, and then boom, there we go. Scott Galloway, penis
and
joke.
we're
Penis
out.
joke. We're out.
We're done. I have enough of that. We're finished. Anyway.
Good luck with everything. The
I
book.
should be offended, but that's what drives people crazy. All the feminists are like, be
No,
offended
you gotta have
by
a sense
Scott.
of humor.
I'm
If you have a
like,
sense of humor, you can't. It's hard to be offended.
I just can't. There's so many problems in the world. I'm not going to be offended by a penis joke. I mean, unless it's really, really vile, but otherwise, whatever.
All right. The book is out tomorrow. Burn book. Good luck with it. Good luck with the tour. It is
Thank you.
great read. I highly recommend it. And thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Andy.
And hope you'll come back
appreciate
again
it.
soon.
I shall, anytime.
Take care. This episode of The Back Room was edited and produced by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-edited and co-produced by Maddie Rosenberg and co-produced by Jen Hammoud. Our theme song was composed by Andrew Hollander, and our logo was designed by Cricket Langell. And special thanks to Patricia Wind. Please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, and also follow or subscribe. Until next time, keep your eyes on Washington, Hollywood, and your own backyards, and have a great week.